Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Real Estate Ruminations. This is a new once-a-week video show that's a Q&A about Southwest Florida, real estate, new construction, etc. My name is Adam Hancock. If this is the very first time you've come across any of my content, this is going to be a little bit more random because the idea here is how specific the questions are to individual people. I have a larger channel called the Florida Relocation Guide. That is the handle and the exact name of the channel. So if you want a little bit more context, you can check that out. So I'm going to popcorn around. The way that you can ask questions, the way that I obtained the questions for this week, there's a couple different options. One, the description box below brings you to it's a form that is literally just asks you the question. So you just mouth vomit, whatever you want to know, and that's it. Just hit send. If you're on my email list, I'm going to try to send out once a week, like a reminder. Hey, if you have anything this week, because stuff pops up. Maybe you watch one of these and you're like, oh yeah, I have a question as well. So I'm going to try to maybe get 10, 15 every week. And then I want to kind of answer them in real time. Obviously this video is recorded, but I'm going to basically, read them out loud and just kind of give you my thoughts because I want timing to matter. I found that a lot of things that seem individual to a person are in a lot of capacities, but at the same time, 5 or 6 buckets that almost 100% of the people relocate fall into on timing, process, even individual communities they select. So hopefully someone's specific need can potentially also satiate what you're trying to figure out at the same time. That's the idea. First question, where are the best neighborhoods/areas to live for couples under age 55 relocating who do not have kids? So obviously a little vague as far as, you go a lot of directions with this. What I would do is if you're at that level, making a lot of information small, is basically I would reverse engineer it. I would do an elimination process. So the areas that you can't look at communities at this point. So you need to eliminate everything that would be off the table. I've not found that people would be even cool being like, if the thing I want is in either one of these areas, great. It's always one. And then once you get in that area, there's a can of worms of communities that will pop up. But if you go community first, convoluted is to say the least. So, things like, new construction is an easy one, right? Where is the new construction at? That would immediately pin you to parts of town. How close do you want to be to town? What do you value about the town? Everybody's like beaches, the coast, but there's a lot of them and they're all in different parts of the town. Do you want laid back? Do you want to be central to everything? Then you add your price point and all that on top of it. So for instance, if you were saying like, my preference a lot of times leads to new construction, I'd at least start there as a discovery process. But you go to newhomesource.com and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to pick through these? Well, typically there's a lot of new construction communities, but they're not in a lot of areas. So if you go to like the Sarasota Manatee County area, for instance, which is below Tampa, above Naples, you go like, okay, northeast of downtown Sarasota, like Lakewood Ranch and beyond, most of it. Little bit central Sarasota, so parallel to Siesta Key Beach, and then everything else goes south of Sarasota. So you're basically saying like 1, 2, 3, which one would I prefer? And if you're visiting, that's a great way to do it. Now you can grab an individual community within those areas to say like, what should I drive to? Those are your map dots basically, but you can't look at the community for the community. You have to look at it as an example of driving distances, geography, what's it feel like in the area, that kind of thing. And then you're like, all right, so let's say that okay, Venice feels a little too far south, and I don't know what to do with that information yet. It's like it seems slower. It's south of Sarasota by 45 minutes. Central Sarasota, like there was a couple new construction communities, but they're not really connected to each other. It feels very random around stuff that already existed. And Lakewood Ranch just felt like a breath of fresh air. Like obviously we're imagining a fake avatar here describing this scenario. But then you get to Lakewood Ranch, you're like, okay, so I think I want to go this direction. And I looked at this one community called Lake House Cove or something like that. Well, that's one of 50 plus communities in a district that you can be 8 miles one way to downtown Sarasota and also 21 miles and still write Lakewood Ranch, Florida on your address. That's why you'd go in the order that I'm suggesting. I'm not going to get crazy on one individual question, but that's what I would do. And then you say, and this is where like questions while you're doing this come very handy, because then if you said that one community and you told me what you liked about that area, I could immediately like make Lakewood Ranch 10% of what it is to you, like relevance wise. But then you go into the individual area and you say, okay, what is the northeast, south, central part of this town? How do they compare to each other? What's the negatives? What's the positive? Do I see price point changes as I drift into other areas? Where are the amenities sitting? And that's how you get to the communities. Now, Southwest Florida, if you don't count like Tampa maybe. The 55 and up thing, I wouldn't stress about like what under it, over it. The biggest thing that does is it gets you into a community that has amenities that are like Del Webb, for instance. Say you're not a golfer per se, but you want like the restaurants, that kind of thing, or you're like another back end way to move to an area where you only know you and your spouse potentially, and meet a bunch of people. If you're even if you're not the most like I'm so like if I go out, I'm like talking to people, but if you're not the most social person in the entire world, then the best way to guarantee a demographic would be to go in one community that has a lifestyle that you're attracted to, that other people will be too, that like you and the same amenities, and then also restrict the age. I found that to be more common than people just trying to get rid of the idea of kids around them. But other than that, like most of these communities live that way. They're all like lifestyle based. The floor plans are too. So I wouldn't stress about that. I'd really just say, where do I want to live on a map? What feels right without being stressed about homes while I do it? And then say, can I do that also based on my housing criteria and timeline? So if you're like, I hate new construction or I'm indifferent, then you can open more things up there. But I found that the majority of people hug the line of 8 to 12 miles one way from town to get the biggest bang for their buck on new construction and not. All right, that's number one. Number two, I have a kick arse, we'll say. If there's probably not kids consuming my content, but either way, I have a kick arse apartment in the Rosemary District listed for mid and long-term rental. I bought it as an investment property. The price is right. Why is it not renting? I mean, the first thing I would say, I mean, I don't know this specific property, but the first thing that I would say is like a lot of it always comes down to price. But it clearly this question is written that the potential landlord, feels like they're in a good spot. Nothing wrong with that. Couple things I would say about the timing right now of this district and why that is potentially happening. One, Rosemary. So what Rosemary is to Sarasota, if you're not super familiar, this gets into like the urban. So it's even harder to get your head around this kind of area. Rosemary is part of the downtown general metro, which is lovely. But there's a strip of like 3 to 4 cross streets that are like the prime. If you had to pick one, you would go. It's the most walkable, it's closest to water. You don't have to cross major streets. You get everything. You're like not that far from the beaches. You're right near the bay. And most of like the restaurants and everything people target are in these same districts. What Rosemary is just an offshoot. It's just far enough where it just makes it slightly weird. Just far enough where all the communities aren't unbelievable. They're nice. I mean, so you're in like one of the best parts of the entire state of Florida. But in urban districts, you can't just kick everybody out and develop everything and make everyone renovate their homes at the same time. That's the beauty in that all the homes don't look the same. But certain areas, the way they mature, if everybody wanted to push into these areas first until that kind of runs out, then they get way more mature earlier. This is Burns Court, Laurel Park, Hyde Park in Tampa, where most of this, it gets less street to street. It gets less house to house, more importantly. It's not like 3 million next to like just paid taxes as much. And again, it's not, this is what's good or bad, right? As you're defining it. But if one district is hands down viewed prime from a geography standpoint, and thus a generational maturity standpoint, and another one's a mile away from it, it's always going to be that for the most part in any sort of town. It's an interesting evolution. That's what Rosemary is. It has like so many things that other areas don't, but that's how anyone that grew up here views it. So because of that, inherently, Rosemary is viewed, especially for someone that's not from here, that would roll into that area randomly. It should be at a discount. If that same house was dropped in Burns Court, it wouldn't be. If it's not priced in that way, if it's being comped or compared to other parts of downtown where the minds of the most biased people would not say it's apples for apples, I could see that being an issue, if that makes sense. Another thing that we have going on right now that we have not seen in forever really is competition when it comes to luxury apartment rentals. I mean, we always had condos, right? Like look like the Whey, Golden Gate Point, these unbelievable like the Ritz Carlton and stuff like that. But that's not competing with necessarily rentals on Rosemary. Um, but we have Cordelia now, like the Lennar parent company has this like really high end apartment building that's in the Quay. It's like the biggest building over there. We have Astor and Lynx coming, so we're seeing a more demand for maybe people that would have bought luxury condos that don't want either to do with the fees. The condo industry is weird. They don't want to wait 3 years for it to build. They're doing it in between. They want new construction, even if it's a rental. Young professionals are coming to Sarasota in ways that we haven't seen in the past because of the changes of the industries, the fatigue of California and the Northeast, the bigger tech growth that comes to the Tampa area, the remote work, stuff like that, that have higher incomes. People like my age range. I just turned 39 like a few days ago, and that maybe have more disposable income, have been working for 20 years, are coming back and like I mean, not everybody's like, I want to buy a house necessarily. Obviously, and then the price of the homes, like the liquidity is so much higher than it used to be. So that competition didn't really exist, and the scarcity of what Rosemary was to the other parts of downtown was way higher. It not renting at all still surprises me, honestly. I mean, Sarasota would not be the market you would target to just like grab a rental. It is very hard to find. I mean, there's a whole season where people just come for that season. So for it not to rent at all, my gut goes to price immediately. But I'm not knowing the information, then we'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
Hey guys, super quick interruption here. If you've been enjoying these videos at all, but want a way more personalized guide to your own relocation, you need to check out my newly released New Home Geeks Audit. No phone calls, no pressure. Fill out a really brief form, and I will personally send you my custom recommendations on how I would basically approach your move. This includes specific communities, ideal timing, and detailed next steps, all within a couple days of your inquiry. The link is in the description box below. Please check that out. And without further ado, let's resume.
Another one, I was looking for somewhat new construction, somewhat type of water view in downtown Sarasota area in the price range of 800K. That's a tricky one. The somewhat gives you a little bit of an out. So typically, you're not going to see any of that come synonymous. The pairing of newer downtown, already tough, 800K and a water view. Assuming if you say downtown, you're saying the Bay. It definitely want to be beaches, but the Bay. So a couple things I'd go about it just as a thought exercise. That's going to be a tricky one regardless. One, I would stretch this area that I deem the magical triangle. So there's an area of same conversation with Rosemary is all water, all downtown, all adjacent mainland to the beaches is not equal because it's access. So if you wanted to say, I want to be in the cream of the crop, you hear these terms like west of the trail thrown around. If you've been following this area at all, west of the trail is Tamiami Trail is US 41. It's basically the coastal interstate, for lack of better words. West of it goes towards the water, but still being on the mainland. So it's the closest strip of mainland that you can be to the water without committing to being on the beaches. Now, the trail is long, so you can be west of it for a long period of time. So the north to south is where value completely changes. Because what you ideally want to be is you want to be not only west of the trail, you want to be west of the trail and south of the Lido Key Beach Bridge, Ben Franklin Bridge, which takes you to Lido Key and then Longboat Key. And then you want to also, at the same exact time, you want to be west of the trail and north of the northern Siesta Key Beach Bridge. So you turn to your right, it'll be probably opposite camera here, but you turn to your right, you have downtown Sarasota, the best part. You turn to your left, Bay immediately, 3.5 miles to Lido, 6 miles down to Siesta Key. Hard to compete. I would argue that all day long with anyone's arguing about other areas of Florida, because that's what I'd want. Nothing's weird. You're central. On top of that, you have one of my favorite, maybe my favorite neighborhood of all time, Cherokee Park, McClellan Park, Bayview. This isn't random condominium land. This is large, mature, single family homes that are low fee based because the land's been there forever. If that's perfect, that's not going to come at 800K. People are knocking on doors and knocking homes over for over $1 million to build $3 million homes. So that's not that area. But what you could do is you could stretch the magical triangle. I said, if you could be in that area and you left it, how much you save? What are you sacrificing, and how much you save by doing so? You get a little bit in the eye of the beholder here, but to me, it comes down to geography. It's an access thing. So say you go north of it. So north of it hurts Siesta Key's conversation, right? because you're going to go north of both of those bridges I said. So you're going to go north of downtown 3 or 4 miles. You're getting towards Ringling. You're getting towards Seaflower. Not all the way to Western Bradenton, but you go north of it 3 or 4 miles. This is where Sapphire Point is, and like all the Ringling School design and all that kind of stuff. Well, what it does is it removes it removes maybe walking distance to downtown Sarasota. It gets in an area that feels a lot choppier, house to house, commercial mixed in. It gets a little weird going north of downtown. And just a couple miles, you're like, this is a different world. And then Siesta Key was 6 miles. It's not anymore. I mean, the bridge is close, but like the actual beach, right? So like you get 8, 9 miles, you're like, all right, how close am I? And then Lido Key is not Lido Key. You still have that access, but you can see the sacrifice there, right? So if something costs 2.5 million here, how far do you have to go to make 800K compelling? One thing I'd look at, you can do the southern version of that as well. Southern version of that maybe is slightly more attractive, but also losing downtown Sarasota and Lido, St. Armands, that area to me would be a big, big sacrifice. And the area it looks choppier than downtown Sarasota as well, but it's a lot more like old Florida homes than it is like an urban environment as far as the housing. So that's one way I'd look at it. You could also go east. You can stay central and go east would be another option. So go east of the trail, behind downtown. And this is where like there was a neighborhood called Payne Park that David Weekley built. So it was new construction. It just I think they're done for sure. About a year old, maybe they've been done building completely. Like kind of cool loft style new construction stuff. It was I like that style a lot, but that gets you a mile to the stuff. You're still kind of downtown, but it's not right there. That'd be one way to get new construction. Urban infill, like knocking down homes and building, like 800K is not going to work there. You could get some sort of condominium thing, but even that's tricky. And then you could pay 100K all you want, but why is it 800K? It's probably cost to ownership. So you pay 800K with 2,000 of monthly fees. What are you doing? So it's, splitting hairs there. If that makes sense, I'd look at that. And then you could also like, try to leave the entire area and say like Pinellas County is a hell of a lot cheaper than Sarasota is. And then going to like northern Naples might be another, maybe Bonita Springs, something like that. I'd more flirt with the conversation of saying, how much do I want to sacrifice to try to jam 800K into this area? Because if I get 3 or 4 miles above downtown, 8 miles now to Siesta Key or something like that, should I look at lower Waterside in Lakewood Ranch? I mean, I think Avanti's like 7.9 miles or something one way to downtown Sarasota. So if you're going to start to stretch, and this is how these things go too, right? You're going to trickle your criteria. It's not going to feel like you got that far removed from your dream, but when you step back, you kind of did. If you're not on the beaches, not on the water, and you're 10 minutes, would you be willing to drive 14 and then get all of the suburbs has to offer as well? Sarasota is so condensed. That's something I look at really, really hard. Areas like the southeastern Lakewood Ranch expansion. Look up a community called Avanti, not for the price, but Avanti and the Alcove in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. Look up where they're based and then map to downtown Sarasota. Downtown Sarasota is 3.5 miles from Lido and then 6 miles down to Siesta Key. So, but the difference there is when you come home, you have all of the suburban amenities. Downtown Waterside, it's a proper downtown. It's huge, really nice, bunch of restaurants. O&A Coffee from downtown is in Waterside Place, the downtown. Owen's Fish Camp, one of the most popular seafood restaurants in Burns Court, kind of cool, funky, historic looking place. Their second location is in Lakewood Ranch, University Town Center, downtown Lakewood Ranch, all that kind of thing. That's what I'd be doing as far as like, if you had the same amount of money, where's the biggest benefit with the least sacrifice is I'd go in that territory. Why should I ask a realtor to represent me with a home builder instead of going to talk directly to them? A question being asked to someone that owns a real estate brokerage and benefits from it. I'm kind of a pretty honest take with it. I'm not a lifelong real estate agent. My background is entirely in finance, and I came into real estate not in any normal capacity. I did not go sell real estate normally and was like, this sucks, I'm going to make YouTube videos. I 100% started talking about like finance and relocation and stuff on YouTube when I was still in finance. And then the whole entire organization got created out of, the feedback loop that exists with how difficult it is to move across the country to try to decide all these things at one time. I never really viewed it like we're selling real estate as much as I viewed it like we're a conduit for a relocation. If timing, information, compensation structure lines up in a way that it makes the most sense for everybody, then I think there is money that is obtained by us for assisting you. I don't view it like the normal real estate agent getting overpaid for an undervalued task kind of thing, if that makes sense. So, what I'd say about that is in a lot of scenarios, I'm not sure you need to. Not to like make anyone angry, but I'm not sure you necessarily need to use a realtor, any realtor. What I would use them for if you're relocating is, and this is what I take very seriously, is there's a lot of there's new construction. To say that you're going to identify an area with 500 plus new developments in any meaningful manner, let alone like their timeline, like what's online, are they even selling anymore, when's it, let alone any of that kind of stuff, which you probably could get to that if you spent all your time researching. It's an area thing. So what I would want is, I'd want to, when I made a decision, when I chose an area, when I'm trying to work through areas versus each other, not only would I want a more simplified way to get that information small fast, so I can start like getting deeper into stuff, right? Because price comparisons, none of that make any sense if you're looking at the wrong things against each other. But when I start to like make my decision and get real serious about spending amount of money in one area, I need to know enough information to know if I'm going to regret it. I need to know what's coming next. How should I view Lower Lakewood Ranch against Venice? There's an answer to that. Not everybody has the same answer, but there is an answer to that. I don't want to know that all of it. I don't want to know that, like, okay, so if you told me what this area should be valued against the others, it needs to be that all the communities available now, but also what's going to release. So I don't sign those papers and I'm like, damn it, 2 months later, the perfect one came about, but I didn't know it was there, right? I'd want to know that. I'd want to know a semblance of what this area might look like when they're going to stop building. How long is this development going to go? I'd want to know if I spend this money at this, like one of the 16 floor plans in one of the 50 communities in Lakewood Ranch right now in 2025, what's that going to mean? How do people view this floor plan? What have they done in the past? What are all the other examples I can see of what this is going to look like and mature? And I'd want to know all those answers based on the biased opinions of lifelong Sarasota residents that will have context for it, right? You could live in there your whole life, but do you have some sort of financial context for your opinions? I'd want to know that. And I'd want to know the no regrets thing. Is it a good idea or bad idea? Would you also spend your money there as well? And it's more that, to me, it's more of that. It's not only simplifying the information, but I don't think the value is that I'm here and you're not. I don't think that's enough. Now it's convenient, and if you're not paying the commission, then I get it. I know some people are like, you still made the money through me, even though I couldn't have kept it myself as a buyer. I kind of get that opinion, but I'm not someone that thinks that, someone should get paid 50 grand just because their uncle bought or they met him or something like that. So if all of that aligns up and you value those kind of things, and at the same time, the builder, which the majority of builders pay not for a real estate agent, they pay for procuring costs. Contractually, we're acting as a real estate agent to you, but they're paying for a referral, more or less. So it's influence, right? Influence comes with information, right? Like I sit more in that camp, even though the builders don't necessarily value, most of them don't value like what I might be to the market because I'm grouped into like whatever just the normal real estate agent activity is. I stand way more on of people choosing a community over another, because not crafting on any of them, just by giving all the information, oversharing the information. Like, how do you choose the Isles versus Monterey versus Shellstone and Lakewood Ranch? I like them all at a certain capacity, but you need to talk. You need to look at them all to have an opinion on any. So that's why I know so much about the entire state of Florida. I mean, I've lived in like 11 cities in it, but to me, how do I give an opinion on Tampa if I don't know about Orlando, Jacksonville, Sarasota, Naples, the Panhandle as well? And I get that's hard to do, but it's not. You can't say that it wouldn't have been better to know all the information if you could have. So if you don't know the information, then you end up giving advice based on not only how busy you are, but on ignorance, on insecurity of the information, on desperation tied to the money and all those kind of things. I try as much as humanly possible, like your person is a person, but to keep that out of it. My entire organization is set up like that. How you deal with me, who else you deal with, all of that. There's no short-term income that could be generated in a way quick enough or enough of money to do something that we shouldn't do morally. And I try to do that as much as possible. Um, if all of that aligns, and then the builder's paying for that, at the same time, they're not giving you that money because they're paying mostly out of a marketing fund that's set aside. Um, that's a portion of their marketing is the agent who's influencing, right? Because like the most efficient thing for them, obviously, if they could market without the agent, they'd make more money for sure. But the problem they have is like Taylor Morrison telling you Taylor Morrison's better than Neil. I mean, can you trust that opinion, right? That's tricky. Someone in Parrish being like, "This is the greatest decision of all time," and then someone at Lakewood Ranch telling you something different. Like if they work for the builder, I think that's an issue, right? So they need something that divides them from each other. They need people like me to do that. I think if you can do it in a non-biased way, if all of that works out perfectly and they value paying an agent because of that reason, you couldn't have kept the money, and you feel like we provided you that value. For us to do that whole thing and then you to go in by yourself after that fact, that's the one situation where I'd be like, all right, I don't understand that. Just to like stick it to a real and people have done that from time to time. I mean, I'm pretty sure like a lot of people hadn't even heard of the word parish before a lot of conversations we've had with people. But I've had people just walk in and be like, well, yeah, you like, you told me about these communities, but you didn't tell me about this one, something like that. But we don't get into any of that kind of stuff. So with us, I would say it would never be an issue. If you're asking the question, you probably already lean to the other side. If the builder's like, hey, I'll give you 4% of the money if you don't use an agent, I mean, it's tough, right? That's the problem with selling your house. And you look at like, how much am I going to proceed? The biggest bucket that's hurting you expense wise is the fees. Some you can get rid of, some you can't. But if that makes sense, that's my take on it. I think you're trying to relocate, you're trying to do something that's hard to do, and you need a lot of information to do it. You can't standardize it. You can chat GPT your way into it only so much. Zillow starts at the zip code level already. You can't even start there. New construction doesn't have a Zillow. New home source, I don't think solves the problem because any aggregator of information that stacks stuff automatedly, awesome for the company, but they can't get deep enough in color commentary because you can't scale what I'm doing here. There's goods and bads with all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyway, that's my take on it. I think I'm trying to help people relocate if it's valuable enough, and the way that we get paid makes sense for everybody, then that is will how I will continue to monetize. If that changes and it doesn't change net migration, it might change the real estate industry. I still think the need, if as long as the need is high and the value that I'm giving is valuable enough, it works itself out.
Hey guys, super quick interruption here. If you've been enjoying these videos at all, but want a way more personalized guide to your own relocation, you need to check out my newly released New Home Geeks audit. No phone calls, no pressure. Fill out a really brief form, and I will personally send you my custom recommendations on how I would basically approach your move. This includes specific communities, ideal timing, and detailed next steps, all within a couple days of your inquiry. The link is in the description box below. Please check that out. And without further ado, let's resume.
We'll do one more. All right. In your experience, what do the smartest Florida homebuyers do differently to secure the lowest possible mortgage costs and avoid common money wasting mistakes? All right. So, a couple of things that pop to mind. One, when you are negotiating, it's not always possible. When you're negotiating, I would go, I would put all my eggs in the getting the principal of the home, the price of the home cheaper. I get the interest rates, I get all that kind of stuff, I get the closing cost incentives. And if you need liquidity, you need liquidity, right? Like if that's the deal breaker, then this is a different conversation. Go for the principal. You can always, with shades of gray, uh, every single high cost item that affects your house is off of the price of the house. So if you're bumping a bunch of percentages that end up costing you all the money that doesn't relate to your principal being cheaper does not hurt. Um, so I would basically be like, and all the lenders, they own the title company. I mean, the builders own the title companies. They own the mortgage companies a lot of times, right? So the amount of margin that's in there that they can work around, that's why they always want to give cash in that capacity because they still make money and then they also can save you money at the same time. It's good for them. I try to take all of that and be like, go right at the price in some way if you can. I think that would be a great way to do to work through a market like we're in now, where you might have some leverage that you did not have before. Over upgrading, careful with that. We can help a lot with that, but your certain homes in certain neighborhoods will only be what they'll be. You can make it cool and awesome as you want, but only be what it be. Certain homes will the next buyer will be lost on certain appliances that you value. There's a lot of things that you should do with a builder if you build, and there's things that you could do after. Convenience is convenience. I overpay for convenience more than anyone I know, probably. So as long as you're cool with it, you're cool with it. But I would avoid over upgrading with a builder and in on a wrong floor plan in a neighborhood that will never support it. It's the idea of like just not being weird with it, right? Like don't put Wolf and Sub Zero and Thermador appliances in a $600,000 house that's built by a builder that wouldn't even build the frame outs for the refrigerators at that height. And is standard wise, right? Maybe that's a GE cafe situation, even if you value like cooking and gas and all that kind of thing. You know, I'm trying to think of other examples that I'd give you. Don't over upgrade a house that's too small for the price point that you're going to create that alienates most of the people, right? Don't 1.2 million on a 2,000 square foot house. What if I have two kids. What if you had three, you know, some of those plans are never going to work, now you need exclusively a an affluent empty nester, which alienates a lot of the population. So, and upgrading would apply to that as it does to the cost effect of what you're going to need to get out of the house when you do it. And I saw someone spend $270,000 on a pool that the base plan costs $700K. And I think that would be even, I'm trying to even picture what you would have done with that pool: travertine, the panoramic screens, water features, fire features, and you could have, your patio could have an $18,000 gas fireplace. I still think it'd be hard to get to that price point. But that money is going to be, it's past having a unique buyer that's going to value it. And so I always say nothing weird, but that's what I mean is like, just think about all the people that could possibly buy this and really think about if you sold it and the next person bought it, when they go to sell it, is it capped forever at that point? And that's where I try to avoid. And then flexible timeline helps a lot, honestly. I mean, we're in a very leveraged market now. I think if you waited and did something in January versus now, it's going to be different than it is. But I don't know how much you're going to be like, I missed a once in a lifetime opportunity like people did in 2020. So that's cool. So you can be poised, but also I think there is something to say that it's all good until it's not. As far as like certain communities, certain opportunities that you're like, yeah, that would have been if this wasn't here, even though it feels like it'll be here forever. If this wasn't here any longer, would I like not even like moving to that particular part of town? And then you can make decisions, even though it feels like you can call your shots forever right now. There's certain decreases on like quick movements and stuff where if you've been researching for a long time, that's the big benefit of being like deep in the weeds, like we've been, is that when you see an opportunity, you can be like, okay, I saw this early, and everybody's going to think they could just chill forever, and this is always going to exist, and this is going to keep dropping, and a lot of stuff is going to keep dropping. But there's also bottoms, just like there's ceilings, there's bottoms at what Sarasota will always be in certain areas. So I think that's one thing to look out for. You could grab stuff right now with that an opportunity and then like ask them for more money and get them as low as you possibly can, where you might not get that opportunity necessarily again, just because the market seems bad, inventory seems high. It's not necessarily apples for apples in every scenario. So that wraps it of our first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, I will try to put the URL here where you could ask questions. But I don't have like comment turned on YouTube. So I like this forum better where you can just individually go ask questions. There's a cool thing that I launched on our website. It's www.geeks, like nerd geeks dash, we'll put it here too, to like spell it with my hands, audit.com, geeks-audit.com. That will take you to a form. It's a little bit more, it asks you for a little bit more information than the question form. But what it allows me to do is basically mimic a phone call with you, more or less. So the benefit of that is like, say you're getting deep in here, you're excited about Florida, you're trying to figure things out. And whether it's timeline or whatever it is, and you don't want to and your experience has been where like, okay, you fill out a form and you get 400 phone calls by agents and trying to pre-qualify and all that kind of stuff. So what if you're in between macro research and ready to do something, ready to talk to someone? I think I could kind of satiate that need in between. And if anything, that goes to a phone call with someone from my team, it gives you so much more context, right? Like where now you're asking questions where you can actually get some great information to leave with. I think it shortens the curve. So I've had enough phone calls with people where if I can ask the right questions and get like the feeling, even though I didn't hear you say it from you, then I can send you back after I get that form how I'd go about your thing, specific community recommendations and why, and then kind of in an invite if you want to speak with someone about it. I found that to be like half of the funnel, honestly, when people are trying to do stuff. So that's called the Geeks Audit. And check that out if you want to. SunshineStateCo.com. You can directly ask for phone calls. You can ask additional questions there. We have relocation guides, written word versions of the video. There's an audio only version of both these videos and the main channel videos. And I'm trying to think of anything else. So I can assist you, of course, in the real estate market. I own a boutique real estate brokerage called the Sunshine State Company. If you ever see that name floating around, that's the name of the brokerage. And that allows us to basically not do normal real estate stuff, right? Like I really believe in that methodology I described through this video, and that's how we act. But you're not getting passed off to a team of real estate agents because Adam's busy or any of that kind of stuff. It is a direct line of saying that we are trying to artfully assist people moving across the country. Everything we learn today can help you tomorrow. Everyone we've helped in the past can help you. All of those purchases on new construction developments that we've given to the same exact new construction rep for 5 years in a row at specific building companies gives us incredible leverage in some ways. I mean, obviously we don't own that builder. There's only so much you can do, but it allows us to find out things early, have better conversations, make the process way less like doing all this real estate crap. Like you don't need, this doesn't have to be as unpleasant as it is when there's a bunch of parties that are trying to accomplish something that don't know each other. Because it's like, then you get in all this combative stuff, especially with resales, right? And it's just posturing and all this kind of thing. We take out a lot of that noise. And I think we have probably the densest amount of information than anyone that I've spoke to about Sarasota, whether they lived their whole life or not. So in my opinion, I think we're trying to do a better version of what I don't like about real estate. So check that out if you want to. Again, my name is Adam Hancock. Thank you guys so much. I really like this kind of content, so I hope you do as well. And we'll see you next week for episode number 2.